An 18-year-old walks into Judge Caprio's courtroom, carrying the bold confidence of someone who believes he's outsmarted the entire legal system. He's facing reckless driving charges after being caught doing donuts in a mall parking lot at 2 o'clock in the morning. His car has already been impounded, and to make matters worse, his friends probably recorded the entire stunt and uploaded it online for the world to see. Yet despite the mountain of evidence stacked against him, the teenager doesn't appear nervous at all. In fact, he's smiling. According to him, he's done his homework, scoured the internet for loopholes, and convinced himself he's uncovered something every lawyer and judge somehow missed. As Judge Caprio calmly begins outlining the possible fines, penalties, and legal consequences, the kid suddenly cuts him off mid-sentence and drops 4 words that make the entire courtroom freeze in disbelief. "You can't fine me." Not "please don't fine me." Not "I can't afford it." But a flat, confident statement, a challenge. Judge Caprio's pen stops midair. He slowly looks up, eyes narrowing, his expression shifting from mild surprise to the calm that comes right before a hard lesson. It's instantly clear this moment is about to become a very expensive education in humility. Hit subscribe, because what follows perfectly illustrates why you never tell a judge what they can't do and why internet legal advice is worth exactly what you paid for it. So tell me, have you ever met someone so confidently wrong it was almost impressive? This is that moment, but on steroids. Thursday afternoon, 2:15 p.m., Providence Municipal Court. The bailiff calls a case that already has the prosecutor shaking his head. Case 89-34, Brandon Cole, reckless driving and destruction of property. The door opens and in walks a teenage boy in a hoodie and jeans, AirPods still in his ears until his mother frantically motions for him to take them out. He's flanked by both parents, his mom visibly mortified, his dad exhausted and silent. Judge Caprio flips through the case file, his expression tightening with every page. "Mr. Cole, you're 18 years old, correct?" "Yes, sir," Brandon answers. At least he has the courtesy to say sir. "And you're cited for reckless driving in the Providence Place Mall parking lot at 2:17 a.m. The police report states you were performing what they describe as donuts, leaving tire marks and nearly striking a light pole. Is that accurate?" Brandon shifts uncomfortably. "I mean, yeah, but there's more." Judge Caprio nods grimly. "The mall is pressing charges for property damage, $1,200 in pavement restoration costs. Your car was impounded. And apparently," he adds, looking up in disbelief, "you and your friends filmed the entire incident and posted it online, where it now has over 50,000 views." Brandon's mother buries her face in her hands. His father stares at the floor, speechless. "Mr. Cole," the judge asks, "can you explain what was going through your mind?" Brandon actually shrugs. "It was late. The lot was empty. We were just having fun. Nobody got hurt." "Just having fun," Judge Caprio repeats slowly, "by destroying property and driving recklessly." "I wouldn't call it reckless," Brandon insists. "I had control of my car the whole time." The judge's eyebrows rise. "Control? While spinning in circles, leaving rubber marks, and nearly hitting a light pole?" "Yeah," Brandon replies, unfazed. "I watch videos online. I knew what I was doing." The prosecutor coughs into his hand, barely hiding a laugh. This is clearly not going well for Brandon. "Mr. Cole," Judge Caprio continues, "your car was impounded. How much did it cost to retrieve it?" "Like $400. "And who paid that?" Brandon glances sideways. "My dad." "I see. And the mall wants $1,200 for cleanup. Who's paying that?" "I don't know yet." The judge jots down notes, then calmly adds, "In addition to property damage, you're facing reckless driving charges, a fine of up to $1,000, court costs, possible license suspension, and mandatory safety courses." And that's when Brandon, still smiling, says it. "Yeah, about that." He casually pulls out his phone. "I looked this up." "You can't actually find me," Brandon blurts out, his voice echoing through the suddenly frozen courtroom. Every sound dies instantly. Judge Caprio's pen stops mid-sentence. His mother gasps in horror, whispering, "Brandon, no." But her son, completely unaware of the storm he's just unleashed, keeps talking with misplaced confidence. "I'm 18, but I'm still in high school, and there's this law that says you can't impose financial penalties on students. So legally, you can't fine me." Judge Caprio slowly lowers his pen, his expression caught somewhere between disbelief, pity, and quiet astonishment. "Mr. Cole," he says carefully, "where exactly did you find this information online?" Brandon shifts, trying to maintain his composure. There's this forum where people talk about how to beat tickets. Someone said students are protected from fines because it's considered targeting minors. Judge Caprio raises an eyebrow. I see. And did this anonymous legal scholar mention which state that law applies to? No, Brandon mutters. Did they reference any specific statutes or case law? He swallows hard. Not really. It was just on the forum. The judge turns to the prosecutor. Counselor, are you aware of any Rhode Island statute that prevents this court from fining 18-year-old students? The prosecutor doesn't even try to hide his grin. No, Your Honor. There is no such statute. It appears Mr. Cole is confusing school disciplinary policies with criminal and traffic law. Judge Caprio looks back at Brandon, his tone steady but edged with gravity. Mr. Cole, let me make this perfectly clear. At 18 years old, you are legally an adult. You can vote. You can serve in the military. You can sign binding contracts. And yes, you can absolutely be fined for breaking traffic laws. Being in high school does not make you immune. Brandon's face drains of color. But the forum said, the forum, Judge Caprio cuts in, was wrong, or you misunderstood it, or someone was simply enjoying misleading people. Either way, you are completely and unequivocally wrong. His father finally speaks up, weary and apologetic. Your Honor, I'm sorry. We told him this was nonsense, but he wouldn't listen. Dad, Brandon protests weakly. The guy had like 1,000 upvotes. Judge Caprio doesn't blink. Mr. Cole, upvotes are not legal precedent. Here's how this actually works. You drove recklessly. You damaged property. You endangered yourself and others. These are violations of Rhode Island law, my jurisdiction, and I absolutely can, and absolutely will, impose fines and penalties. There is no but. You walked into my courtroom armed with internet misinformation and attempted to tell a judge what he cannot do. That wasn't just bold, it was foolish. Brandon's mother begins to cry softly, overwhelmed with embarrassment. Judge Caprio's voice softens, but his firmness remains. Mr. Cole, I'm going to teach you a few lessons today. First, the internet is not a law school. Second, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. And third, never, under any circumstances, tell a judge what they can't do. At that moment, an older man in the audience, clearly a lawyer by his suit and demeanor, raises his hand. Judge Caprio nods. Yes, Counselor. The man stands. Your Honor, I've practiced law in Providence for 32 years, and I'd like this young man to understand that challenging a judge's authority based on online advice could have resulted in contempt charges. Your Honor has shown remarkable patience. An excellent point, Judge Caprio agrees, turning back to Brandon. Mr. Cole, do you realize how much worse this could have been? Brandon finally breaks, whispering, Yes, Your Honor. Judge Caprio nods and opens the file again, methodically reviewing it while Brandon stands at the podium, no longer cocky, now pale and visibly shaking. All right, Mr. Cole, the judge says evenly. Since you seem confused about whether I can impose fines for reckless driving in Rhode Island, let's go over exactly what you owe. The fine for reckless driving is up to $1,000. Judge Caprio pauses. And I'm imposing $800. Brandon's eyes widen in shock as his mother lets out a small, distressed gasp beside him. Court costs and administrative fees total $215, the judge continues, his tone steady and precise. Your Honor, his father begins, trying to interrupt. I'm not finished, Judge Caprio says gently. For the property damage to the Providence Place Mall parking lot, restitution in the amount of $1,200 is ordered, payable directly to the mall within 90 days. Brandon's lips move silently as he does the math, his face draining as he realizes the total exceeds $2,200. Additionally, Judge Caprio continues, your driver's license is suspended for 60 days. After that, you'll be required to complete a 16-hour reckless driving course before it can be reinstated. Brandon blurts out desperately, Your Honor, I need my car for school. Judge Caprio's response is immediate, firm, but not cruel. You should have thought about that before doing donuts in a parking lot at 2 o'clock in the morning and broadcasting it online for everyone to see. His expression softens slightly, but his words remain purposeful. Mr. Cole, you walked into this courtroom believing you had discovered a clever loophole that upvotes on an online forum somehow outweighed real law. You stood here confidently telling a judge, you can't find me. And you were absolutely, completely wrong. Brandon lowers his head. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I really thought, Judge Caprio interjects. You didn't think. You assumed. You chose to believe strangers on the internet instead of using common sense. And now you're learning that mistakes like that have a price, a literal one. Brandon's father sighs heavily and steps forward. Your Honor, he's still in high school. He doesn't have that kind of money. I'll pay it. Judge Caprio shakes his head slowly. Sir, with respect, I don't believe that's the right solution. Your son is 18 years old. That makes him a legal adult, capable of making adult decisions and now responsible for adult consequences. He damaged property, drove recklessly, and documented his crime online. Those choices belong to him, not to you. But how's he supposed to pay over $2,000, his father asks helplessly. The same way any adult would, Judge Caprio replies firmly. He gets a job. He works. He pays it off over time. We can arrange a payment plan if necessary, but let me be clear, he pays it, not you. Turning directly to Brandon, the judge leans forward slightly. Mr. Cole, you're about to learn what responsibility truly means. You'll get a job, probably not a glamorous one. You'll work long hours and hand over your paychecks to cover these fines. You'll take the bus for the next 2 months because you won't have a license. And every single time you're standing at that bus stop, you'll remember that internet legal advice is worthless and that real-world actions carry real-world consequences. A woman in her 30s raises her hand from the gallery. Judge Caprio nods. Yes, ma'am. She stands. Your Honor, I'm a high school teacher, and I see this attitude every day, students who think a quick Google search makes them smarter than experts, who trust social media more than professionals. This young man needed exactly what you just gave him. A dose of reality. A man in his 50s rises next. Your Honor, I run a small business. I hire teenagers all the time, and the ones who've never faced real consequences are always the hardest to manage. They convince themselves the rules don't apply to them. This young man needed this wake-up call. Brandon's mother, still wiping tears from her eyes, hesitates before speaking. Your Honor, may I say something? Of course, Judge Caprio replies. She takes a shaky breath. My husband and I have struggled with Brandon for years. He always thinks he knows everything. He won't listen to us. He goes online, finds whatever answer fits what he already wants to believe, and ignores everything else. We told him this whole "you can't be fined" thing was nonsense, but he refused to hear it. Maybe hearing it from you, seeing the consequences firsthand, maybe that's what it takes. Judge Caprio's expression softens again, empathy replacing firmness. Ma'am, he says gently, parenting is never easy. And raising a teenager in an age of endless misinformation is even harder. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes consequences are the only teachers that truly get through when words no longer can. Judge Caprio turns back to Brandon, his tone calm but weighted with authority. Mr. Cole, he begins, your mother just said something very important. You don't listen. You believe you know better than the adults around you, people with real experience and wisdom. That's normal teenage behavior. But here's the reality. You're not a teenager anymore. You're 18 years old. That makes you an adult. And adults who refuse to listen often pay very expensive prices. Brandon nods slowly, eyes lowered in embarrassment. I understand, Your Honor. Judge Caprio leans forward slightly. Do you? Because 20 minutes ago, you stood in this exact spot and told me confidently that I couldn't fine you. All because of something you read online, written by anonymous strangers. Tell me, Mr. Cole, does that sound like a wise decision to you now? No, Your Honor. And why not? Brandon pauses, taking a deep breath before answering. Because I didn't verify the information. I didn't check if it even applied to Rhode Island or my situation. I just believed it because I wanted it to be true. Judge Caprio nods, his expression softening just a bit. That's actually a very mature realization, Mr. Cole. That's called self-awareness. Remember this feeling the next time you're tempted to trust an online comment over a qualified professional. Remember standing here, facing more than $2,000 in fines, because you believed an upvoted forum post. The attorney from earlier clears his throat. Your Honor, if I may. Judge Caprio nods for him to continue. Mr. Cole, I sincerely hope you learn from this. Real legal advice comes from licensed attorneys who understand the law, not random internet users. If you had spent even 30 minutes consulting a real lawyer, it might have cost you $150, and they would have told you immediately that your foreign loophole was nonsense. Instead, you're paying over $2,000 to learn that lesson the hard way. Brandon nods again, visibly humbled as the reality of his mistake finally settles in. The narrator's voice cuts in. Drop a comment. Should his parents help him pay, or is Judge Caprio right that he needs to handle it himself? As the hearing comes to a close, Judge Caprio delivers his final instructions. Mr. Cole, the clerk will assist you in setting up a payment plan. You have 90 days to pay the $1,200 in restitution to the mall. The remaining fines may be paid over 6 months. Your license suspension begins immediately. Please surrender it before leaving the courtroom. Any questions? No, Your Honor. Then let me leave you with this, Judge Caprio says firmly. You're 18. You're standing at a crossroads. You can continue believing you know everything, trusting internet strangers and ignoring real advice. That road leads to costly mistakes and painful lessons. Or you can start verifying information, listening to people who actually know what they're talking about, and learning from this experience. That road leads to growth and success. So tell me, Mr. Cole, which path are you going to take? Brandon's voice is quiet but sincere. The second one, Your Honor. I hope so, the judge replies. Because if you ever appear in this courtroom again, and I sincerely hope you don't, you won't get patience next time. You'll get the maximum penalty. Understood. Yes, Your Honor. As Brandon and his parents quietly leave, his father mutters, first thing tomorrow morning, you're filling out job applications at every store within walking distance. A few chuckles ripple through the courtroom. The attorney steps up to the bench. Your Honor, that was a masterclass in patience and education. Judge Caprio shrugs, smiling faintly. He's 18, old enough to know better, but young enough to still learn. Maybe 20 years from now, he'll tell his kids about the time he told a judge, you can't find me, because of something he read online. He pauses, almost amused. Do I think he learned his lesson? Maybe. But I know for sure his wallet did. Whether his brain catches up, we'll see. So if you're watching this, subscribe for more real moments where online confidence collides with courtroom reality. Because sometimes 4 little words, you can't find me, end up costing $2,200. Brandon Cole walked into that courtroom believing he'd outsmarted the system. He walked out without a license, buried under fines, and carrying a brand new understanding: Reddit upvotes are not legal precedent. Judge Frank Caprio proved that telling a judge what they can't do is expensive, that internet legal advice is worth exactly zero, and that real-world consequences will always teach lessons no forum post ever could. This is what happens when confidence outpaces knowledge, when Google searches replace lawyers, and when one overconfident teenager learns that the sentence, you can't find me, became the most expensive 4 words he ever said. Where are you watching from? Ever gotten bad advice from the internet? Share your story below.